Long ago, when the gods had left Toril and the age of the elves blossomed, an ancient war between devils and demons spilled into the mortal realms. Feeling that this incarnation of the Blood War posed a significant threat to mortal souls, agents of the celestial host were sent to deal with the problem. Instead of offering an end to the conflict, the addition of this new faction simply inflamed it, further spreading destruction across Toril and the established elven civilizations. In the ensuing conflict, all mortal races became completely disenfranchised, used as pawns, treated as objects to defend or destroy in a conflict that seemed to belittle their very existence. In their time, the elves had grown wise to the ways of magic and had mastered the art of creating enchanted items of great power, and as such, turned to the forge to manufacture the tools with which they would turn this conflict from their world. Philandril and Daria, the great artisan of Mithglarok, conceived of 7 items with which the elves would control the forces besieging the world and turn them back from whence they came. In order to attain complete mastery over the abyssal, infernal, and celestial forces, great champions were sent to capture some of the most powerful entities of all factions. These titans were cast before the enchanting stone and bound into 7 masks. A silver mask and a golden mask to charm the devils, a bronze mask and an iron mask to charm the demons, a diamond mask and a sapphire mask to charm the celestials, and a platinum mask, into which 1,000 elves willfully poured their souls to command the entities from all 3 realms. The platinum mask was not as powerful as the others made, but it was also known as the Assassin's Cowl, for it allowed its wearer to become invisible to devils, demons, and celestials. It is said that at the turning point of the war for freedom, a great elven champion known as Kali Shao donned the platinum mask to walk unseen amongst the enemy forces, where they slayed the high generals of all 3 factions, before delivering their heads to their respective masters in the plains beyond. Kali Shao never returned after completing their quest. It is assumed that they were lost forever to the madness of sorrow. The masks were built for a single purpose, and the entities that inhabit them demand a tithe. Those who wear the masks too long are taken over by the spirits that dwell within, doomed forever to haunt the world as their soul is blasted and their body slowly twists to accommodate the desire of its new owner. With the aid of these mystical artifacts, the elves were able to drive the conflict from their world, thereby entering a time of peace and great prosperity that we all know today. The masks that were not lost to the conflict were hidden, protected in the great elven cities and temples, to Mithglarok, where they were made, to the halls of Shar and Selûne, where the twin goddesses watch over them, and to the misty moors of Miribar, where secrets are never told. This excerpt from A Trail of Tears, a book written by ancient elves more than 13,000 years ago, contained knowledge thought lost to time, but in a small shop, through a dimensional door in the private collection of a now-mad archivist, 1 copy remained, hidden from the light of the gods, until the tumult of war threw it to the cobbles of Miribar. With the true power of these masks now revealed, the 3rd Daggerford Irregulars have made a decision to travel south to Saya Lucian's birthplace, the Moon Crescent Temple. Hidden off the island of Olambor near Baldur's Gate, this structure is now the most prominent temple to Selûne outside of Evermeet. But in its crumbling catacombs lies a dark secret known only to Saya and her now-deceased mentor. For the Temple of the Crescent Moon was once home to worship of the twin goddesses of Shar and Selûne, dark and light in perfect balance. If the information they have is true, then somewhere therein lies hidden another of the 7 Masks of Mayhem.
So for the first time in
as long as almost any of you can remember, you're finally living in relative luxury. I mean, Peral, what you might call luxury, you know, but for people like Spear, you're just learning this whole new routine and rigmarole of lavish luxury. Not being able having to wear your armor 24/7, except when you want to, is kind of nice. Do you try and acquire a boy in the meantime? Someone to service your armor and see to your needs?
I don't think that's she'd feel. I don't feel Spear would yet be comfortable with being served by a boy.
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh.
And in the Lord's Rest, you find that all of your needs are seen to. You can just relax reading your books, send out people to get you sundries, bits and pieces. The food is not the most diverse, but the care they put into preparation is always second to none. And the quality of what you're eating is very good. Not quality, not compared to your Evermeat cooking, but for human standards, it's really not too bad. The other thing that's looked after is just basic needs on a day-to-day basis. And if there's anything you want that might take a little bit of time, you can order out for it. And you guys take this time, as the days go by, you see the fires of the city, of the southern city, diminishing. And it seems like a lot of buildings are being taken down and modified as the orcs move in and start to settle in. You also hear the sounds of works, digging predominantly, and as word filters through from the southern city, and also the undercity, where the dwarves have their keeps and their holds and their silos, it seems that a secondary conflict is going on, where the orcs are earnestly trying to dig in, bury deep, use their earth-shaping mages to restructure the ground and the city itself to try and crack into those citadels. They're making a certain amount of headway, but these dwarves have held this city for thousands of years, and they know it and how to work it better than anyone, though they have never been in this situation before. It seems like they're really dug in. You have a few opportunities that have sprung up. Various invites to meet with individuals, to Spear, of course. There was an invitation by the head of the guards to meet with Lord Idian Scythe of the Ruby Circlet. There are opportunities for commerce and lucrative business arrangements on the side, on behalf of Peral, and of course, just the opportunity to explore the city as a whole, particularly the northern city, where there are a lot more institutions and organizations and just upmarket establishments to interact with. That's good for most of you, but not necessarily all of you. Obviously, Gus, you still have problems getting about with your carrion crawler armor.
No, I've figured out how to make it work. Yeah, every time someone's like, you can't be here, I just shake the magic pouch. And they let me through. It's one of the best items I've ever got.
You found it works.
So magical.
That's always, yeah, well, you know, nothing's 100%, but it is surprisingly effective.
Derelict.
I'm not trash, I'm eccentric.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it, absolutely. And you find that by shaking the magic bag, the clinking gets you in most places, which is pretty good. However, you have time now. You take about a week to just rest and recuperate, lick all wounds, put your bones back in their sockets, and do various bits and pieces. So we're just going to go around, and you're going to tell me what it is you'd like to get up to. So we'll start with Gus.
I am going to get blind drunk.
It's a plan.
Repetitively. Oh, maybe just once.
And just never come out
But,
of it.
yeah, just roll with it.
Okay,
That's fine,
speaking
we'll
of
put
rolling with it, I'd like you to roll percentile dice for me.
Style. 28.
Okay, so I'd like you to mark off 28% your current gold supply as you get drunk, occasionally robbed. You obviously don't take all of your gold with you wherever you're going. You leave some, at the room. But 28% of your gold is now stricken from your sheet as you spend it on booze, revelry, or just have it stolen from you while you're lying out, passed out in the gutter in a city where people are quite desperate and full of refugee communities.
I'll also, if people can't drink, I'll get drinks for them. No one's trying to... Well, and other grumpy, curmudgeonly types.
And so you very quickly become known among refugee communities as that very generous, drunken weirdo.
Alcohol.
Mushroom wine guy.
The mushroom wine guy. Have you seen his little floating friend? Strange buddy.
Yeah.
A little mushroom.
The other thing is, because if I'm not using my spells each day, where I'm chilling out, I'll spool up good berries to feed people.
Okay.
And actually just pop a buddy for healing. As long as I don't have to do anything, I'm like, this is the healing spot.
Oh, I could help you
Go
out.
for
we
a
could,
walk.
We could put it inside a burning barrel of 44-gallon drum.
Unnecessary.
Buddy inside.
So in the course of this period of time, you actually get approached by members of the Axe of Miribar, who endeavor to recruit you into the armed forces to fight in the Undercity.
So, that's the healing square. And you guys can do what you want with it, but I'm going to be over here drinking.
Did you organize scheduled times for the healing square? Because surely you can only do it so many times a day.
Well, yeah, we're here for a little while. It'll just be like, it's like the first time it would have just been impromptu, and then there would have been the rush, and it would have been like too many people. It's going to happen at noon. Noon is the healing square. Outside of noon, no. So they've got the 10 berries, first 10 served when we're done.
So there's a queue by 11:30.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of people through there in one round, and it lasts for 10 minutes or a minute. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's a minute. Excellent. Well, you definitely build up a reputation. People know you by name and know to look for you, and every time you go out into the streets, people want to find you. There's always, when you walk out of the building, the maitre d' of the Lord's Rest has actually complained, Spear, you get you're going out one day.
Oh no!
And you're going through the foyer, and one of the doorman or the person at the counter says, "Excuse me, Lord Wentworth, might I have a word?"
Why, yes.
It's about your help, the Stinky Man.
Ah, Gus.
Yes.
That's who you refer to, the druid.
Yes, I would very much like to impress upon you the option of having him relocated to the servants' quarters, or we also have a small shack several blocks away we could accommodate him in. He'd be quite happy there. We could provide him with wine and fresh pigs.
I see, and why would you make this recommendation? He seems quite comfortable where he is.
Ah, yes, that's quite the problem. He's managed to...
Sorry, did you say that was a problem? Do you not want my guests to be comfortable?
Oh, no, of course. He seems to have ingratiated himself quite extensively with many of the, let's say, more unseemly elements of society.
Unseemly? You mean criminals?
Yes, of course, criminals. And they will wait for him at no end outside of our front steps every day until he leaves the building. And we do try our best to shoo them away, but it is starting to get rather expensive to keep a squadron of Towns Guard at our door at all hours.
Would you like me there to have a word with him?
Perhaps if you would encourage him to keep his friends and activities at distance from our premises, that would be greatly elevating for our reputation and in turn your reputation.
I'm sure if they're criminals, he'll understand.
Of course. So you walk out. At this point, Gus is still in bed. You heard him snoring very loudly. And you walk out of the building, and you didn't really notice it because, a city's a city, but you sort of look around, and there's a bunch of, as soon as you step out of the door, you see first the flash of some shiny armors. You see now two permanently stationed Crown Guard or permanently stationed Axe of Miribar guards outside of the building. And then you notice the flash of about 8 pairs of eyes within the square, within close distance to the front of the building, as they also look to you, hopefully, in expectation of Gus leaving the building. It's a mix of beggars and people with sickly children or grandparents, or people pretending to have sickly children or grandparents, or some
would they
rather
appear-
thuggish-looking
Would
individuals
they appear to
standing in
spear
groups.
like a group of criminals, or would they appear to spear like a group of
Clearly
people down on their
vagrants.
luck?
Vagrancy is a crime, I'm afraid.
Give me a perception. Give me a wisdom perception. roll.
Welcome to the upper crust.
Yeah, welcome to the upper crust.
Hold on a second.
You've really come into
I'm
your own there,
Just
Bernard.
Not going well here.
Just call it how it is. I don't agree.
For some reason, my character sheet isn't loading. Great. Here we go. Perception, wisdom.
Uh-huh.
Well, I am not a particularly wise person, so 5.
Yeah, look, they just seem like a whole bunch of pretty needy individuals. They seem to be all of them. You're actually quite surprised that so many people have come to rely on Bernard and need to be here.
Right, not Bernard, I've got nothing to do with this.
I've come to rely on Gus and waiting for him to walk
It's
out
better for the mass burials.
to engage in urgent business with him.
Business.
Of course, as soon as they see your armor, which I'm assuming you're wearing as you do when you
Indirect.
Yeah,
leave
well,
the place,
given that I'm currently passing myself as Wentworth,
Yeah.
absolutely.
they all sort of quickly look away and make themselves look meek, but nonetheless are gathered in the area.
Cool. I would like to talk to Gus about this.
Um,
Is he around?
Yes, he's sleeping rather loudly in his quarters right now. So you head back up the elevator.
Enlightening conversation.
And
for
Buddy's like,
everyone.
The door isn't even closed.
and I'm naked.
You're never naked.
Ish.
Well, your idea of naked is to have...
I take the beautiful robot.
Oh, of course, that's right. So he's lying... He's...
Oh,
he's
you're-
sporing lightly as the cracks between the carrion crawler armor that are plastered to his skin by
You're never
rotting,
nude.
mouldering bandages starts, as he heaves, starts giving off small puffs of spores in time with his breathing.
It's an umami-riddled room.
How long do I know when he went to bed? Do I know if he's likely to have been well rested?
Do you care?
Give me a wisdom perception roll.
9.
You did not hear him come in. But he definitely wasn't there when you went to sleep.
I'm gonna write him a note.
Buddy,
Dear
give
Gus.
this to your master.
Dear Gus, what was the name of the guy who told me all this?
The maitre d'.
That's
I
his
have been
name.
informed that your friends are bothering the establishment. I don't want to. I'd love to chat to you about this when you're awake. Look me up. Love your party member, Wentworth. Wow. Spear.
Okay, excellent. So apart
It
from
has
just, like,
love
stick
hearts
it?
on it. Just put it next to his bed. I try not to wake him up.
Okay, so you put it like
Creep around in my plate mail.
he doesn't wake up. You put it down on the counter, and as you sort of look at the counter, you realize there's a fine covering of spores, and anywhere that there's organic matter, you see small mushrooms growing up from them.
Man,
Okay.
they really need to step up the maintenance in this place.
Yeah, they cleaned
I
it
will
just
use-
yesterday.
One charge. Oh well, no, I'm not going to interfere with these things.
You could blast it.
I was
with
gonna
the wand.
blast an area. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna blast an area with the unicorn horn to clear it, and then put my note in the center of that. Just one clear spot with a really pretty note with a big love heart on it. Gus, for when you wake up.
You could be
Let's have a
healing
chat.
the sick,
Yeah,
but
right,
instead
you're cleaning the
you have a clean armoire.
I
would've
also
used
add to the
cloth.
note just as I'm about to creep out. I think, come back to the note and write, "P.S. I'll buy you a drink," because I think that might incentivize him to
course.
speak with me about this.
So your week passes in relatively colorful fashion. Make a wisdom perception roll.
That will be 22.
Oh, you do get the note then.
Oh, it's a very clean note.
Absolutely. Sawyer,
Yes.
what would you like to do with your time?
I would like to. There's a couple of things.
Yes, of course.
I want to keep studying the books that we have, the language, and the new book. I think Bernard wants to help with that. And then I'm gonna go out and buy a couple of things. But apart from that, I think I want to maybe just make sure I have 1 or 2 evenings, maybe having a drink with Pearl.
Okay, cool.
but-
Some social times.
Yeah. Nothing too obvious. Just like chill.
Yeah, just social times. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I mean, look, Peral definitely like spending time in bars.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to find him in some upper crust establishments, purveying various articles, doing business, scoping the scene. Give me a wisdom perception roll.
That is 14.
He definitely pays a lot of interest in who
Sorry,
has money.
16.
He definitely pays a lot of attention to who has money and who does not have money, and likes to follow up those inquiries with where they live and where they do business in very clever fashions, really, and then sometimes interjects with business suggestions of his own and how he can sort of help them out with their situations in order to help them discuss more about where they keep their assets and what assets they particularly have. So yeah, look, but you know, let's just say that. Well, before we move on to an actual engagement, give me a. I'm assuming you're going to spend some time studying the language book. Yes, the
and
Languages of
I'm
Heaven
gonna
and
spend
Hell.
actually most of my time, like a lot of my time will be the language book, and also I'm just like general praying and being with my God.
Okay.
Anytime she's on that book, I'm hoping to overlap my stuff with her.
Yeah.
While we're doing book note
Yeah,
time
so
together.
I want you to do 2 things for me. First, I want you to make a intelligence roll. Just raw.
Come on. 1.
Yeah, you think you're getting it, you just don't.
Books are for nerds.
Sorry, the book's not even the right way up.
Sorry, Bernard. Yep.
So
Alright.
unfortunately, you're making no significant headway learning the language at this point.
Alright.
But you know, you've been reading a bunch of stuff. It's kind of engaging. It's interesting. It's actually really boring. Really, it's just hard to get your head around.
Okay.
And yeah, the second thing is that Bernard keeps distracting you, going, "Come help me with this deciphering problem."
Cool.
Have you found anything in that book that's going to help me with that deciphering problem? So I want you to make another roll to see if you can.
Intelligence.
You look for this symbol.
Yeah,
see
investigation,
Oh, investigation.
which is still intelligence, but
Yeah, but.
So it might become +1.
Shut up. This one. Oh, far out. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Nope. 3.
Getting there.
Unfortunately, you do not find anything significant that will help you.
That said, will Bernard see how much I'm struggling and like
Yes.
have a chance to look at the book himself?
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
Bring in the Archmage.
Oh, that's a 12 on the die. Perception. Yeah, I'm probably.
Yes,
realising
after
that
doing
he's
the ritual
struggling.
spell, you go, yes, this is perfectly fine. I can read it all. It just tells you how to understand the languages.
Can I cast comprehend languages on someone else as a ritual? Or is it just self?
No, just-
Oh, sorry, Sai. Here you go.
Regardless, you taking time to help him will give
Self.
him advantage. in the
Advantage.
roll.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And of course,
Such as it is.
you could also bless him,
Yes, I can
Give him
guide
words of
you.
encouragement.
Yep.
which would
Which-
help in his role.
Awesome.
So, Peral, as
Alright.
you are taking, what are you doing with your time?
So, I've got a couple of things on the list. Number 1, we need to make a more of rock solid disguise for Thea.
Okay.
So I'm going to be using my forgery kit, knock up some scrolls of pedigree to cover some minor cousins.
Elven pedigree?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just, sticky tape those ears to be slightly pointier and
Give me a name.
get some contacts.
Well, give me a. Do you have forger's kit?
I don't have proficiency with the forgery kit, but I've got a forgery kit.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to make a roll with him.
Yeah. Is this intelligence or dex based?
Intelligence.
That would be a 20.
Wow. Okay. Well, you think it works. I mean, it's such a backwater elven noble lineage. Like, who would even notice, right?
Yeah. I've got some actual scrolls of pedigree to work off too. I can just
Of
copy.
course. Just copy them over. It's all fine.
Got gold leaf.
Got a new name then.
Got a new name. Let's.
Same, but different. Also,
Elvish calligraphy all looks the same to me anyway.
It's racist.
I mean, obviously, you're
That's
going for a
right.
moon elf thing. The main problem with Thea is the mark, or the slightly luminescent mark on her face.
Yeah.
I'm working on that with my stage makeup.
Yeah.
Some kind of Phantom of the Opera get up, I
Yeah.
take it.
Don't
Or like, or emo
go
hair.
for an emo elf. A bit like.
Yeah. Oh no. I try styling my hair in much the same way with it.
So you're
kinda
dressing
over my
Thea
eye.
up to look like Saya?
Oh,
That's really
this is
weird.
weird.
I just turned. No, I don't think I'll do that.
One day, as you're trying it out, and I was like, "Shit, no." We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
I'm also going to be using my extra 4 hours a night
Uh-huh.
to try and rustle up some income.
Uh-huh.
Ideally, would be some useful adventuring items because I'm a little bit armored down.
So you're trying to locate some...
Yeah, I'm basically fishing out the old domino mask.
Okay. Going
cat
back to your
burglary
old
outfit.
nighttime pursuits.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I can find some.
You're going to have to do some research to find out who and where. It is interesting. So you're carousing, essentially.
Yeah.
To try and find your way around. All right, so I'd like you to make a charisma investigation roll.
Oh. That would be a 11. Not superb.
You find lots of rich people, lots of wealthy people, but I'm assuming what you're looking for is special interest items.
Yes.
This is not the part of town for that sort of thing.
Damn.
And it seems like the collectors of, say, magical items are reasonably tight-lipped. And there are definitely a few collectors who have been cited to you, but those collections are the collections held in the palace or in some of the greater temples of the Platinum Dragon, for
That
example.
would probably be a 2-person job.
Yes, well, they do have one of the largest temples called the Star of the North, which is the largest temple of the Platinum Dragon in the northern part of Faerun. And they have holy relics and magical items that they keep as a cache to arm their soldiers during times of need. You imagine a lot of them would probably be in the field. Nobody tells you that that's the case, but just in a time like this,
Yeah,
it
you'd
could be the
wanting to
case.
be using them. Ah, damn. So, what else was I doing?
well, you had a reason. You're pondering these thoughts when you look to the moonlit corridor, out of which steps Saya, dressed in evening attire. The first time in possibly a long time that you've seen her not dressed in her battle garb, and it catches you off guard. Give me a charisma roll. Let's see how well you did. Are you helping Thea?
Oh, bardic inspiration. For sure.
Can I guide myself? I don't think I can.
So you're seeing the montage while she's dressing herself.
No, they're just having a nice. They're having like they're pre-gaming.
But.
a couple
Add
of glasses of
1d6.
wine and getting ready.
Did you roll like a 1 and a 1?
No, wait! Wait! I rolled an 8. Thank you very much. Although, can I use I can't use deception.
You could.
There's
This wouldn't be a great way to start this whole thing.
so you look lovely, but
Is this important
it's
enough
still
for me
quite
to
cold, and you definitely underestimated the amount of clothes you should be wearing when you stepped outside, because it's so toasty warm inside the Lord's Rest. And when you stepped out into the street, it wasn't until you were halfway across the gold market on your way to the tavern that Haral said he was going to be hanging out at that you realized it was too cold and you were covered in goose flesh. So she dressed very well, but covered in goose flesh and shivering a bit. Very quickly moves to the fireside.
I'll sweep on over and give you a half cape to
Aw.
keep you warm.
Thanks. Didn't think it would be so cold. How are you going? What are you up to? What's happening?
Just killing time,
Killing time? Yeah.
hanging out, seeing some of the lovely local folk. There may have been a. Would you like to go to like a party?
I guess. Do you have something in mind?
I think I might.
Can I do an insight check though? That would actually be
Damn, that's suspicious.
21.
Yeah, he's definitely happy to see you, but he seems as happy to be seen with you, and you catch him like glancing over at other people in the room who he might be trying to impress by being in your company.
Yeah. A party sounds good. Yeah, sure.
Trust me, once it kicks off, you'll love it. I know it's not your natural scene.
All right, just promise me you won't leave me.
No. This is a two-man party.
All right.
And you disappear into the night. When you say a two-man party, do you mean that you're going to a location to try and rob someone? Yes.
I was wondering if there was a hanging invite that we could wheedle our way into in one of the fancier establishments that could be some
Yes.
far
So
more
there
important
were-
casing.
Yes, of course. There were definitely some. There were a few groups of lesser nobles who were dropping hints that they were going to be going to their private quarters later for. So there's an engagement to go hang out in the smoking room. Generally, probably about 10 people. There's a young noble from the south who's come up from Waterdeep and has estate here, and is holding a small gathering, probably 30-40 people, just hanging around playing parlor games at dinner. And you heard most people are talking about, oh, it's so annoying, there are no balls, there's nothing really going on, the court's so dead right now, everyone's so serious and dour with the siege going on.
It's disappointing.
We can't. So it seems like it's all just private parties and closed groups. So yeah, there's a small gathering in a smoking room, and then there's another
go for
gathering of larger gathering.
Party games. Party games are where it's at.
All right, let's go.
All right. So the two of you head up. You have received notification from one of the people in this same establishment, a man called Starbrand.
Starbrand.
You're not sure if that's his real name?
It is to him.
Hilton. His family name is legit though. Hilton is a reasonably well-known group family from the south. This is the Waterdeep noble. And he has quarters not too far from the palace, so it's really only a short walk from here. A small group of them are leaving, and I would like one of you to make a charisma roll, persuasion, in fact. You can have advantage, or...
You can do that, and also I'll
'Cause you're good.
guide you.
You gonna help?
I'm gonna use some lucky on that first. It's not as shit.
And you
guidance?
get guidance.
Okay, good.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
cool. And
That's-
do you get advantage? Because,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
okay.
that's much nicer.
somewhat better. That's a 21.
Oh, cool. So you seem to be really good standing with these people. They're actually really excited to hear about your family. These aren't elven nobles, so they're human nobles. They're excited
up.
by the fact that you're a wave dancer. Ooh, wave dancers! You know, we've heard so much about them. Yes, that was a very exciting man that my father used to always talk about. He only visited once or twice, but I think we met him at Luskan a few times. Used to have some wild parties in Luskan.
That sounds like my dad.
Your father? Really?
Did he come in on the one in the hand?
The one in the hand?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that was his ship. He had great parties on the ship, but off the ship there was always more space. He'd always have people back to private events.
Yeah, father really got around.
Glingarian, I believe his name was.
That's him. That's him.
Oh, Glyn. Well, just wait till we tell Starbrand about this. So you make your way over, and your engagement, your purpose here is to
Case the joint, and if it's anything better than just easily transferable money and gems and stuff, then that's great. If not, then maybe do a light skim.
The place is nice. It's a private building. It's owned by the palace and owned by the rulers of Miribar, but it's also just allowed to be used by visiting dignitaries. So there are rooms and are quite large, accommodating various balconies overlooking parts of the city. Give me are you both looking for
I don't know. Are we both
items?
looking?
I am actually primarily making sure that Saria actually has a good time, because she seems a bit stressed.
Okay, so you're not gonna coast. Okay. Well, give me a charisma investigation roll then, to see if you find out any more.
No, this party's
Give
great.
me a wisdom perception roll, Saya.
That would be, I think 18.
Peral is definitely very distracted, trying to find out who has what money and where. It seems to be a sideline that just keeps taking him away from the engagement the whole night. But there is one point during the course of the night where he seems to have just given up on all of that. But the main times that is the case is when he's just with you and you're together. So there's a point where you find yourselves together on a balcony, away from the rest of the party and the revelry. He's no longer fishing through people. His guard is dropped, and he's just talking to you.
I didn't quite realize this would be a work engagement.
Well, look, business and pleasure do mix a lot,
It's
but
fine.
well, look, it's not fine. It's not really fine to you.
Well,
I haven't been fair.
well,
You've been incredibly good to me since I came back into your life.
well, I just feel like I haven't been really anything to you because we barely talk to each other. Like, you kind of ran in from that building, and really we haven't stopped. It's been nice to slow, I guess. Like, apart from that, I haven't seen you back since you're a boy, and even then we didn't exactly say goodbye properly.
I'm not even sure we said hello properly.
Yeah.
It was. It's not my finest moment. But
No,
look, I was 30.
Yeah, oh my gosh, back when, far out, I must have been, what, 40 or something? I think I'm younger than you, right? I must have been about 25. I don't know. It's not important. It's all. It's.
Legal for us?
Been hanging out with Indians too long.
You're a hetero.
Oh my gosh, I know. Elves bank maturity at the same rate as human. Thank you.
Is that a thing? Oh.
They just don't get their name till 100.
Awkward for one night stands then, right?
Yeah. Well, it's always hard with, you know, when your parents run the temple, it's always hard to get away and everything. But I'm so different since when you last saw me.
I don't know how different you actually are. I feel like you're putting up a good front, but
Well,
you
it's
still
just
seem
'cause-
the same person underneath. You're still suspicious as all hell.
I don't know. I'm less. I think I found more myself. You know, my groove, and then I do this little like awkward like shuffle.
Yep, that's that's you.
But should we talk about the present you left me, or should we just?
Oh, you did get that.
Well, it
At
was.
this point, one of the people from the party comes out and goes, "We're about to start playing another game. Please, come inside. We're missing you terribly. We'd like to hear more of your stories about your father and your adventures."
You know what? You go inside. Keep them, entertain the guests, and then I want to see if I can steal something. Could I?
Yeah, we'll make an investigation roll.
Brilliant.
2.
Welcome to the team.
So you fussick around and make a sleight of hand roll.
This.
Deception, I believe.
No, there's actually a
it's
sleight
separate
of
skill.
hand.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's based on dex, at least.
13. Is it?
Well, nobody notices the apparently insignificant item that you steal.
Okay, I get very excited. I think it's very valuable, and then I just kind of like.
It's probably very valuable. It's in like a very expensive manor
Yes.
house.
And then I just like, while distracted, I kind of leave. I get really excited and leave, and then I want to leave whatever I've stolen just on Peril's bed, and then I
Okay.
just want to go to sleep.
So you're initially rather disturbed at the absence of Sion.
Yep.
Do you leave shortly after, make your excuses, or are you happy to continue engaging in this amazing parley games?
Oh, damn it.
Too popular.
I'll leave. I'll like make my excuses and go to a bathroom and slip out a window, leaving it unlocked, and make my way out.
Okay, give me a d6 sync roll, please.
6.
You are slipping out the window, and your old habits, like, let me see. And you're a few floors up, so
Yep.
you drop a grapnel and just start shimmying down. And you're about 2 floors down, and 1 floor off the ground, and you're passing a window. And there's light coming from the window. And you look inside, as you are wont to do, and you see there is a person. And they're in a box. They have a box in front of them. It's an elderly woman dressed in long red robes with gold embellishments on it. The room itself is decked out in warm colors, autumnal, with yellows and reds inflecting across the various rich and deep hardwood furniture, with wainscoting along the bottom of all of the walls, and then the top plaster and all painted in oranges and yellows, and various sideboards and glass cabinets in which you can see displayed numerous items of varying value. Some of them seem quite rare, in fact. But she has a box open in front of her. You can't quite see her face. You see it just offside profile. But It's a small burgundy box. It has brass hinges and fixtures, and she reaches into it and pulls out an orb. It's black and glassy. She looks into it and holds it around. And then you see two lights, like gems, shining in the night, burning the smoldering fire. Seem to be looking back out of it from this smoky sphere.
Oh.
And she says some words that you can't hear because it's the other side of a glass window. And you can't quite see her face, so you can't even lip read. But a conversation seems to be happening. At which point, she stops, puts it back into the box, wrapping it with a piece of silk, closes the box, and then goes to a notebook.
Yep.
And starts filling out the pages. That's all.
All right.
Oh, I mean, how long do you want to wait hanging off a grappling hook on the side of a building in an opulent area of town? You hear the sounds of guards coming not too far away on their regular patrol.
Shit. Does she have her back to me at all?
Yes, you're
Yes,
seeing
okay.
her from back right.
Can I crack open the window and sneak in?
Make an investigation roll.
Probably not 15.
The window is locked.
Well, that's a temporary problem.
You want a crowbar?
No, I'll just quickly jimmy it. Oh, quickly fiddle it.
Give me a thieves' tools.
13. It's not my night.
You see her suddenly sit bolt upright and look to the window. She makes a perception roll, and you're not stealthing. Do you have your domino mask on? I don't believe you put it on before you left the window.
I didn't. But you know,
Is Domino your alter ego?
no, it's like one of those little.
Domino masks. Yeah.
I'm just gonna start whizzing down the room.
You drop down to the floor, and then you hear the window opening.
I will hide.
Okay, give me a hide roll.
17.
See as she peers out, she's like holding her hands. Energy is like radiating around her hands. Some kind of small hovering cinder. In the other hand, she's holding an object. You're around, and you see her face clearly now in the
Okay, good.
moonlight.
Who the fuck is
a
this?
handsome but elderly woman.
She's
You're
just
not sure
experienced.
who she is. You're not particularly familiar with things in this side of town, but a human, and yeah. The one signature, she has shoulder-length grey hair.
Yep.
And deep, piercing brown eyes. But you're not sure who she is.
Okay, good. I will wait until she either starts blasting or goes away, and then I'm gone.
She eventually sort of goes back inside.
Okay, good. Let's.
She looks around. Well, she looks around the window. Picks something up. Make a perception roll.
It's not my night. 7.
You're not sure what it is.
Unimportant.
Could be anything. Looks around. All right.
Sneak attack this bitch.
I think I'm gonna go steal, maybe murder.
Is there anything else you need to do within your week?
No. Aside from I'm gonna be doing little
You were going to try and
trigger
move the
traps
cheese?
and things. Well, I was gonna try and move the cheese, and then when I got it into a convenient pile to move, I believe the Archmage wandered in and went, That's my cheese. He is the primary market in this city.
All right.
He can't even stomach the good stuff. It nearly killed him.
He's just got the
Not
taste
for
for it
eating.
now.
Fear. It's not for eating.
So during my week when Paral is not off flirting, I'm going to get him to sit down and have some Elvish lessons with me, and obviously I can get Saya to help me as well, so I can build up my
I would
Elvish.
like you to. You don't already have Elvish as a language, do you? Okay. Well, I'd like you to make an intelligence roll.
I've got basic, but
Oh,
yeah,
you can
clearly
have-
not
Do you want
today.
guidance?
Probably would like
Oh,
some.
you can roll guidance. Default.
Well, I don't know if it's going to make a difference because I just rolled a 4. And what was it? I had to
Languages are just not
And I'll
our
give
strong
you.
point.
So, Haral, I'd like you to make a wisdom roll.
Oh, for the love of God. No, this one's actually
so
alright.
D4 or
20.
D6?
Default.
Oh,
That
okay,
did
so
not
you
sound
can
that
have
way.
advantage on that roll.
Oh, I can read. Well, that's good.
I can tutor languages, sure.
So I roll my 20 again because I have an advantage. Well, that might be better. That's a little bit better. And was intelligence?
Yes.
Alright, so that'll be 11, 15.
Okay, that's reasonable. So you can make attempts to understand Elvish with disadvantage going forward.
Yay! I will also be putting together a bit more of a disguise. So I'm getting rid of all of my Carnivale circus kind of like clothing, becoming much more simple in my dress, basic traveling clothes. And given the fact that it's a bit cold here, I'm thinking a nice kind of woolly head dress.
It is coming out of winter, but it is still only the very tip of spring. So.
Yeah, so I'll get some sort of two. One that's a bit warmer, so that sits really close to my face and my eyes and wraps around past my ears, so it covers the tattoo. And then a lighter sort of weight one, which again comes really close to my eyes and
Okay,
wraps around.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my tattoo will be covered.
Is this a mystical mark?
Maybe one of those
Yeah, well,
total
less of a- yeah,
hats
It's a
tattoo.
mystical
that
mark.
like have a little
Like
so
with
you
a
buy
veil.
so that you can
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what be
Yeah.
denied and it slides out.
Yeah,
Back
probably.
something
Anyway,
fetching that we
takes
saw
a
on some
Give
snake
me a
people in a
disguise
boat.
roll. You can have
Veil.
advantage.
Disguise. What would that come under? It's 11.
Advantage. So.
Yep. 15, that's way better. Is that... I don't have disguise.
It comes under deception, I guess.
Deception, that's right.
Okay, so it'll be 19.
Wow. Okay, well, that's reasonable.
At least one of us is doing it well.
And then once you've finished up your draft horse papers,
Yep.
I get you to give me my new name that I have to practice.
What are we
Yeah.
calling you?
I'm still studying the papers. They go on years.
Brayearth?
Grey Earth.
It's a terrible name.
It's okay.
No,
that's
it's
probably-
alright. I like
that works. Grey Earth.
Oh, I was just
Is that the
judging
family
my
name or the first name?
first name.
Judging your family.
Yeah.
They should be judged.
And then Wave Dancer as well.
No. That one would be a Brayearth Sunhugger.
Ripple Jigger.
A sun elf,
Sunbugger.
obviously.
Yeah.
The sun.
Um,
I might eat a tan.
Look what you've got is considered.
and is there
a
anything
tan.
else? That doesn't really take the most amount of time. Is there
Oh
anything
no,
else
that
you wanna try?
Elvish is taking.
Oh, of course.
I
no,
really
the
want to
Elvish, yes.
focus on
The Elvish and the
yeah,
disguise.
trying to get that under. So at least I can, you know,
You can catch
Pretend to
snippets
be
here
one
and
of them.
there.
I
You
mean-
can pick up bits and pieces. It's,
yeah.
so.
Having a mobile phone with a camera would have
And
been really
Bernard.
useful.
Bernard has a few minor things and the one big thing. The minor thing is I'd like to try and convert some of my currency from coins into more portable forms of wealth in this war, which is cheese. So I will pick up the not to eat, mind you. It's just really to convert currency
Yeah, of
into a
course.
more portable form of wealth. It's a long game. Second one is I would like to actually find a relatively immature wheel of camembert and leave it in Gus's room, hidden. I've got a plan here. I've got a plan. It's an experiment. I don't know.
You know I've got the super cheese spores.
No, I don't know, and I'm not asking. I'm not asking for
Please don't
assistance
tell
in
me.
this. I'm hoping to
don't
just
know.
profit without any necessarily making any kind of arrangement.
All right,
Some of
well,
your
I'd
least
like you to make a
ripened cheese,
D6 sync
please.
roll for me. Let's see how well this cheese matures.
I rolled a 6.
You're not sure. Obviously, it'll take longer than a week.
Yeah, okay. All right.
The results.
Okay, so that's the cheese conversion.
So you're just gonna be hiding it on his person
What,
for the rest of the party.
Somewhere in his
17.
bedroom.
And like
Okay,
every
please.
night you check the cheese.
There's a pillar made entirely of
17.
immature camembert wedges.
Can you please,
Wheels.
please make a deception roll to hide that cheese?
I'm not sure how. Yeah, well.
I'm not
I
trying
am
to hide
surprisingly
it. I'm
perceptive.
trying to place it. Oh, it's a terrible roll. I think that's a 2.
What do you do with the cheese that you
Under the
find in
pillow.
your room? Lance?
Someone gave me
Anonymous?
cheese,
It's a 5.
but it's an
But I
immature
mean, are you
cheddar
looking-
cheese.
Are you looking around your room? I mean,
It's
I-
passive
you're mostly
perception.
just drunk in
Passive,
there,
yeah.
right?
He's
Yeah,
got a
it-
stupidly high passive
the problem with
perception.
being
right.
the wise
So-
So
good.
if you hide it,
Right
I'm just going, huh, spider senses tingling.
That's
Cheese-
that,
it's
Four
cheese
senses,
sense.
four senses say cheese nearby.
my high perception is why I drink. I have insane perception and insight. I'm like, the world is shit, and everyone's an asshole. Booze. I will try some of the cheese. If it is not, obviously not good enough to be, and then I'll just get a of the old cheesy spore and just
Oh, you're going
pop
to
it in there
infuse
and
it. Alright.
mold it over. There we go.
You make a crust for it.
Mm.
Give me a nature roll.
Nature roll,
I actually,
nature roll.
I'm gonna put a druidcraft so I can actually just keep growing more spore.
Yeah, give me a nature roll.
That's not
16
natural.
on the dice. That's going to be 16 plus 7 is
Cheese.
Yeah, you have a plus 7.
23.
Oh, you've got proficiency.
Yeah,
Yes.
23.
Cool. All right. Well, when you find the cheese again, it is in fact coated in a healthy rind, and
No,
has
this is great. This is great. I take the notes. You know, I'm in a bit of a book mode for this week anyway. The cheese is a great outcome. I'm very happy with it.
Bernard is like
This is
walking
long term.
walking around the apartment. Bernard doesn't leave the apartment for a whole week.
Oh, every now and then you'll see me go.
Walking around in nothing but a dressing gown and Madame Numa's magical undergarments.
One time when he went out and got a bag of cheese and returned with no gold and a bag of cheese. Otherwise, just books sniffing around in corners.
Give me a wisdom perception roll as you return to the building.
5.
Yeah, 5 perception. That'll probably be 8 total.
Obviously, cutthroats are following you around because they're even here lurking at the front door of the building and they want your cheese. They want it really bad. And they're all hanging around it. Every time you look out, you see down from the window, they're still there. They've been there for like days. And they want your cheese. They know you have the cheese. And they want it real bad.
Alright, the cheese is staying on my person. It's the only safe place for it.
I can help you. I can
cheese
help
and
you
book
insulate
finale.
that if you want.
No, I'm fine. I am an Archmage. Speaking of Archmage, any time that Lord Andal Wentworth steps out
Yes.
on I think it would be appropriate for me to, as the Archmage, accompany him in order to sell the ruse.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks good for a
So you are
Lord
leaving the house.
to be in the company of an Archmage. I reckon that'll happen a couple of times during the week.
Okay.
Let me know if you need the
Oh,
Alright, so
I mean, I'm
you're
at the
playing
house a lot.
wingman to any of Andal's.
Lordly ruses.
I'm
Alright,
going to
cool.
be out a lot, though.
Awesome.
So,
Well, you
As
can
frequently
choose
as
the
you
most
can around
important
Stanley
lordly
Yes,
ruses.
correct.
And what else are you doing? You're going to try and crack this
And then the
code?
rest is comprehend language rituals upon myself, getting through that book to try and crack the demonic book.
It's a real page.
Because we may need that
real page turner.
nightmare back.
just rituals and cheese.
So I would like you to make a. It would be so we're deciphering a code. So it's essentially an investigation roll with your investigation with advantage because you've got the help of Saya, and Saya you also.
I'm also guidance, so
So you're gonna
plus
give you some
D4.
guidance. Now, over the week, I'll let you do this roll twice to try and break the cipher. Unless there's anything else that you want to do to help you.
Potions. Performance enhancing potions.
No, I'm not gonna reach like that. I'm actually happy to just take the roll. I mean, I've got lucky. There's a couple of stabs at the D20. This is an important thing, though.
I can give you some inspiration.
Yeah.
I like it. between my sitting there studying.
The inspiration hits advantage, right?
bunch of
Or is it?
No,
It's
it's an extra
additional-
D
it's a
based on this.
D6.
It means you'd be adding 1d6, 1d4, and rolling with advantage.
So I'm getting a bard, background music for my.
And
I'm not
you've got the
great at
bard
studying.
going,
And an
you're
encouraging pat
awesome,
on the
be
shoulder.
awesome. And then you've got
A reading
Saya going, oh
montage.
god, please be awesome.
We have had a not very successful week.
As a wizard, a book reading
God.
montage is just right in my wheelhouse.
My friend is really bad at this, please help him.
Alright, let's get this done.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do it.
Alright, so what was your bonus?
1d6.
D6.
And D4.
My investigation's +4.
Oof. Yeah, much better. 19.
That's 21, 24, 25. Get a 25. on it.
Yes.
It was 24 last time. Okay, so after some time really scrolling over it, and funnily enough, what does help is the code of the heaven and hell, because there are some divine glyphs that are being thrown in there just to really mix it up. And you start to realize that there's a rhythm between all three of the languages, and you finally crack that damn code, and you draw up a cipher, and now you can commence to read this book.
Thanks for your help. Everyone leave it.
It's going fine.
I say you take a little bit of time, and it starts to the first component is a grimoire, which basically talks about the many upper and lower echelons of the different planes. It outlines all of the planes of 9 hells. It outlines the hierarchy in each plane, and it outlines types of demons, and it has in that in each section there are several true names for many of the lesser demons and a few of the mid-tier demons. And there are a few disclaimers here and there, or devils, sorry. And there's a few disclaimers here and there about how to stay away from them, and then there are talks about how to summon them, what they like, how to weaken the barriers. So it talks a lot about magical things that you can do, but more so it talks about non-magical things that you can do. How to break down the barrier between this world and the netherworld, how to influence the soul during the process of dying, what kind of soul you need to have, what kind of circumstances and scenarios attract devils to them. And it talks, there is a part, this is going through glossary, there are parts on the guides to devils, their various portfolios within the mortal realms, and what activities and people they're attached and attracted to. And those are the ties to get there.
Mhm.
And also talks about protective rituals you
Okay.
can do to defend yourself. So basic things and then magical things. Some components are easier or harder to come by. It reads a lot like a magic book, but a lot of it is also just not magical, as it were.
Kind of
They're-
like
Gossip.
practical recipes or ritual
Yeah, more like
recipes.
practical recipes and ritual recipes. Most of them come off as ritual things, like these devils dislike salt, so make a salt circle. You know, it's not strictly magical. Or
FAQ.
yeah, if you can
Delicious.
if you can capture bind demons to you, devils to you if you know their true name, and you take the finger off a body they're inhabiting, for example, you always know that this kind of devil will be in this kind of person because that's the portfolio of that devil. Those are the kinds of things they're affiliated with, so they're always going to be attracted to those souls waiting to take them. And if they are in the body or near the body, then you can trap them that way or summon them out of the body. There are also a lot of ways for how to identify when a devil is acting inside of a person or acting to influence a person.
Mhm.
My visual of this is you just sitting over the book with a wheel of cheese in it.
Yeah. Occasionally going.
It's very long-winded, it's very codified, and it's very precise. It's essentially
Encyclopedia.
it's an encyclopedia of rules, very extensive, to how to deal with the the 9 hells and the laws that they have, because they are very, very lawful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a legal guide.
But it's specifically for the lawful evil devils? Is
That's
this one?
correct.
Okay. And Zugtamoy is not in this thing? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Tuktumoy is not in this thing. It does not talk about demons at all. It refers to demons, mostly with regard to how you can use minor cantrips to intimidate devils by trying to pretend to be a demon.
That was silly.
And lots of ways to bind and manipulate them,
Oh,
essentially.
Well, that's huge. Yeah.
Emotional.
This will require digesting.
Like the cheese.
Cheese.
But also it gives you, there's a map of the 9 hells,
Okay.
and a description on how to move from one realm in the 9 hells to another, and how to navigate along the river Styx.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it talks about how to avoid shifting. Well, it tells you that the river Styx is also an artery that connects to other realms, like the Abyss and the demonic realms.
Yeah. So, River Styx, eh? There you go.
Good book. Is
So,
this the one that we found from the
Saya.
bookseller?
Spear.
No,
Spear.
this is actually
Sorry.
one that we
So,
pulled out of
spear.
Spear.
House.
So, there's a few things that Spear will want to try and get done this week, I think.
one thing that you do have is that standing invite to meet with Lord Idian Scythe of the
Yeah.
Ruby Circlet.
So that connects with another one of her objectives this week. So one thing that she would like to do is take some lessons from Harel around proper conduct of a aristocrat,
Etiquette.
of a noble person.
Alright, so
That's right,
Peral,
noble
In
born.
theory, yeah, I can totally help out with
I
that.
would like you to make a wisdom roll. Just roll.
I will use lucky on that.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. 16.
Okay, you can roll with advantage.
For
Intelligence, actually.
charisma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Holy looks.
Like I'm far more charismatic than I am smart. Okay. 17.
Cool. So yeah, look, you start to. There's lots of slapping of hands at the table. Which fork to pick up? How to sit straight. How to sit like a gentleman. That's pretty easy for you. Act like you have a penis, I believe, is.
Yeah.
Why legs further apart? Further apart.
Do I have to get the wedge back?
Are you? But there is this taint of elven nobility.
It's better nobility.
So just talking down to people, assuming that people are going to greet you, it just starts to change how you think of the world. And
So, I used to think that noble people were good people, and now I start to suspect perhaps they don't have the best interests of those they serve.
yeah, lying
Small
for
end.
advantage is one of the big things that really catches you off. Basically, it's like, yeah, look, you don't need to be truthful to everyone all the time, especially if they're not as important as you, or if they don't have as much money, because what they do and say really doesn't matter in the long term.
Or if you're
They're
really
just there
poetic
to elevate
about it.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Flowery.
If you're really poetic about lying.
So this ties into another objective of hers
Okay.
in this time, which is that she's going to spend some time praying and communing with Bahamut.
Okay.
Specifically because there has been a lot of lying and deceit that's happening. In particular, I'm impersonating an aristocrat, and she's trying to understand. You know, she feels this is for the greater good.
It's a
but would
victimless
it
crime.
be the wrong thing to do, and etc.
Would you like to go to the largest temple of Bahamut in the north?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Pick up some armor when
As
you're
long
there.
as- Yeah, sure, I'll go over that way. So I think yes.
Some
Yes,
plus
that'd
one
be good.
braces.
Okay. So you head to the temple. Are you taking your archmage with you?
No, I feel this would be a solitary spirit.
Okay. Are you wearing your ruby circle armor?
No.
Okay.
She would be
So
in
you
her
dressed down.
common clothes, although I would probably carry my shield
Okay, of course.
because it's got the
Yeah, it does. So as you make your way through the streets, you are greeted once more by the opulence of this area, just these huge buildings. But you're taking on board what Karal has taught you, and you're carrying yourself with an air of authority. Even though you're in the robes, you're dressed down, but people seem to pay you no mind. You seem to fit in more with that air of authority. People who would normally ask you for money aren't asking you for money, because you just have all of your defenses up. You're not open to the snipes of the world and the people and their plight, who are many in this case. You imagine that this place would normally be very well kept and looked after, but there are a lot of just street hawkers selling mystery meats and odd assortments of goods here and there in places where age-old buildings are immaculately kept or have been immaculately kept. The contrast of absolute poverty that is spilt through from the refugees filling the town from the destruction of the southern city is apparent everywhere. And more so as you approach the temple, you realize that even though, like that, because it's a lawful temple, lawful good temple, Bahamut particularly is a militant deity, but at the same time a caring deity. So don't seem to be accommodating people inside the temple, but they have set up accommodations in the not insignificant courtyard that fronts the temple. And they have lots of tents and fires, and they're just trying to keep people warm and keep people fed to the best of their abilities. And you see various clerics and acolytes of Bahamut walking around, but also you see guards. You see a gang of youths leaving. They're all wearing armor of various sorts, like breastplates, leathers, stuff like that. Young men and women who are equipped for battle, wearing shields. And then you see them literally tagging with another group who's coming back in, and they're all injured and hobbling and walking on crutches. They seem to be like battle-hardened, torn, like they've just been fighting. And you see they go to an area where there are a lot of other young soldiers, mostly followers of Bahamut, but also Acts of Miribar members, all gathered around a few fireplaces and some long tables that have been set out, again in the large courtyard that's out the front of the building. The building itself sits behind this hodgepodge tent city, as it were, rising up to a full six stories into the sky. Marble veneer, polished hard square columns rising up with sharp featured dragons in stone, various colors, but mostly in white and gray marble, sitting atop these pillars, all connecting in a large octagonal shape, off which smaller buildings seem to be built structures with other yards, courts, fountains all around it. There's a large set of stairs that lead up to the central archway.
So I think Spear would just approach through the central archway and go to kind of the common prayer area that was open to the general public.
Yep. The prayer area is rather crowded. You see, it seems to be separated into two spaces. There's the common galleries, where most of the people are, and it's actually quite crammed. A lot of people, some people are sleeping, other people are just like tending to their children. The refugees are using this as a place to just be, that's not on the street out in the weather. But then beyond that, there's a golden rope that is attended to by several priests of a higher level. You recognize their garb from the man who helped your father. These priests are dressed in long white robes with gold trimming, the symbol of Bahamut emblazoned on their tabards, and they have white cowls over their heads, and typically they'll carry a sword. The sword is ceremonial for the most part, but you know that with looking at them, it seems like that might actually be the scabbards for the most part, and these guys seem to have replaced their ordinarily ceremonial swords with the practical versions, probably just time of war pressure. But they're still priests, or clerics, as it were, and they form a cordon along a line of golden rope between the common galleries and another area where you see maybe 3 to 6 people in various groups just hanging out, and they're very well-dressed people. They seem the well-to-do people, and they're just sitting in silent prayer or giving their regards.
On the other side of the velvet rope, is it?
Yes. Golden
Of
robe.
course.
Golden robe.
Okay. So I suppose. So what are my options here? I can.
There's the common area,
Yep.
which is a prayer area where you can go and sit. You can visit. There are around the outside. There are various vestibules, or there are various alcoves which have statuettes in them with reliquaries for the various aspects and incarnations and deeds of Bahamut. And then that's on both sides of the rope. And then there's the other side of the rope where it's kind of being separated or segregated by a cordon of clerics. And it seems to be mostly just being used by well-to-do people in small numbers.
This is a decision.
But you'd have to assert yourself to step across the ropes.
Just punch someone.
Use the magic bag.
As you are deliberating, a novice approaches with a small cup and says, "Oh, good to see another follower of Bahamut in the temple. If you would care to give any contributions, it would be greatly appreciated." Rattles the cup.
Slap him and use smite. I'm a paladin. I'm meant to be here.
I drop in 1 gold.
Whoa, thank you so much.
Then I ask him, where would you recommend would be a peaceful place to pray to Bahamut to seek some guidance?
Well, I know it's very busy in here at the moment. I personally know that it's a beautiful temple, and the grand statue that you see, he gestures over to the statue that you almost didn't see for all of the vaulted architecture in here that just drew your mind away, coming through the stained glass windows in the dome of the ceiling, but it all trickles down on this large statue of Bahamut in apparently platinum. Or at least platinum plated in some places. Mostly a very stark white marble, and then a highly polished platinum finish splashing over some parts of the statue. But for me, when I wish to seek real solace in communication with Bahamut, I go to the small garden, the Shrine of Isolation. It's around the back of the temple. It won't take you long to find. It's a little out of the way, but you'll know it has a small fountain and a single tree. It's a very ancient tree. It's a Methuselah tree. We don't have to give it much water, so like the dragon, it lasts forever. For me, that's where I like to go.
Thank you. That is a very kind recommendation. I will follow your advice. It was this way?
Yes, if you just go back out the door, and before you go all the way out, you'll see a small corridor. I'll show you. And he turns around and goes towards the door and says, just through here, and he points, and you see there is in fact a small archway that goes around to the side, just a small arterial corridor that seems to skirt the outskirts of the building. If you just go down there, and you'll find on the 3rd exit from this corridor, you'll find the garden.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I give him another gold.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your kindness. I hope you find what you're looking for.
I hope so too.
And you enter into a low, still vaulted corridor, but simple, plain, and you sort of come through this cold of the stonework, sort of starts to temper your mind for the thoughts of your prayers. And eventually, after passing a few doorways, you see a green light reflected through one of the archways. And it's the ambient light coming from the leaves of a tree that is thick and twisted, set in a small garden with various moss and grasses around the outside. There is, in fact, the sound of a small fountain in the corner. A simple carved limestone shape of a dragon on a shield sits at the back of the fountain, and the water trickles out of the dragon's mouth. Much like your shield, it's mounted sideways and just rolls down the shape of the dragon as it pulls into the water. There's a single stone bench in this round courtyard, no more than 4 meters across, and the walls go straight up and up to the sky. At this point, the sun has crested, and the warmth of its beams start trickling into this small yard. You're by yourself.
Okay, I'm going to sit on the bench and to Bahamut, seeking guidance around effectively what I've seen, this tearing between, power and wealth and servitude and honesty, and how to be good in a world this complicated.
I'd like you to make a percentile roll.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry,
This is what prayer looks like, motherfuckers.
It looks like dice!
Do it! What a peaceful setting. Okay.
Oh yeah, getting all up in that god's face.
32.
Okay.
What kind of prayer is that?
The
I know.
Considered another
Ugh, not praying right.
Need more flagellation.
We should hit that guy.
The events of the last month or so flitter through your mind, and you're focusing on guidance, seeking guidance. The thoughts that come strongest to the fore is always the mask and the story from the book, and particularly the passages about the story in the book about the mask being able to affect celestial beings. The celestial beings are they're the agents of the gods themselves. The angels, they work for Bahamut, they work for all of the gods. They are the divine messengers, the divine beings. To manipulate them is some kind of extreme level of sacrilege, but then at the same time, in your mind, the idea of angels being put on the same footing as devils. There's a lot that you know about your faith. It binds you on a very intimate level with Bahamut. But then there's this hierarchy of this really abstract hierarchy that exists between the god and the earth that seems to be confusing you as you find out more about it and more about other people's worship. But as you are thinking about it more, again, the idea of the mask, the idea of the masks as a whole start coming into your mind. The idea that the masks exist at all, and you have proof of it, is something that feels to you to be a fundamental problem. And that it was created by the elves.
Those guys.
It's also a problem. You are struck by that as your key conundrum, that the masks themselves are posing a significant problem for the gods and the divine order.
Okay.
But no direct intervention.
Damn it. Didn't pray right.
Not hard enough.
Found such a great setting too. Okay, so I have a new puzzle to ponder more than anything else.
You feel like the biggest thing that you come away from this with, the biggest feeling that you come away from this with, is that you feel like you have a significant disconnect between yourself and the religious practice, because you're just worshipping solo, and you know that there's more information that you're not getting. And perhaps if you knew more about even your own religion, then you might be better equipped to answer the questions that you seek.
Are you
Well,
gonna
that
raise-
changes my plans for the rest of the week.
You
So
prayed!
So there were 2 more things that she wanted to do, and now there's more. But effectively, Spear's a tourist here. So
Yeah.
despite the fact that, this place is under siege, she would be trying to do as many fun, city-based things as possible.
Yeah!
But now she's going to have
Right
to
on a stick.
temper...
Right on a stick.
Have you seen the healing square at noon?
It's the most popular pop-up in the town.
But she's going to have to temper her desire to go out and just see the sights
What?
and
Bullshit.
check
Just
out
don't sleep.
be a country kid bumpkin going, wow, look! With now a desire to go and continue to come to this temple each day and learn as much as she can from the priests there.
In the hours
Also,
of
there's
12
that
to
dinner
1.
I need to go to. She's got such a busy calendar.
That was not set in stone.
I know, but I'd
specific
like
date.
to. But anyway.
Actually, my religion.
Well, have a think. What would you like to do by yourself?
You guys need to get on board with that.
So the things I'd like to do by myself is go sightseeing, not necessarily
Get drunk eating.
partying and stuff, but going out to just view
Sounds
the,
pretty good, I'm not gonna lie.
be like an archetype, like a stereotype of a tourist, like
I'm assuming
Bomb
that
bag,
Bernard,
map,
you're going to take some time to join
going out
us.
to thing and being like, look, this town square is the coolest. Did you know that a guy did this historical
Oh, who
thing
is
over
your
there?
wingman? Who is your chosen wingman
Well,
on this?
Well,
But you're not doing this
I
as a-
feel like
I know my way around, and I've got to practice
true.
my disguise so that
And
I
I-
don't look
And you're not
like...
doing it as the Lord Anne of Wentworth, right? You're doing this as Spear, right? Is this true?
I'm doing this as so the tourism would be a
It's been a
spear.
while.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this
So-
would be
Get some
mostly,
spear out of your
If
system.
you would like to
Going
join
out
me,
you, and
I
I'm
feel
going
like
out
you
as someone
also
else.
enjoy the sights of this with me.
Yeah.
And mostly just kind of that very typical kind of tourism.
Mhm.
And
Steering
the only
you
other
away
thing
from-
that she'd do alone was maybe I'll make it that every morning I spend a good hour with the priests, trying to learn more from the monks there about the religion of Bahamut.
I got a question for you, Spear. You've had this vision about the mask from your god. Are you going to raise that up with us?
I don't think I had a vision.
We're gonna
it's
come
just
back
that
in a
it
minute,
became
and
the
we're
thing
all
I found-
gonna-
Yeah, we're gonna come back to a group scene shortly. Just so there's two things I'm doing: mornings with the clerics, afternoons
Okay.
sightseeing.
Yeah. All right. So this man is called. So you come back to the temple. You've had your prayer. As you emerge, you see that the man who took your donation before, the novice, sees you come back and says, looks at the confusion on your face, or you seem like slightly. He said you seem slightly distressed. Did you find the answers that you were seeking?
I think I just found more questions.
Ah, you bear the platinum dragon upon your shield. You carry the disposition of a warrior. What is your relationship to the religion of Bahamut, the following of the god?
Well, I'm a follower of Bahamut and a servant of his, but I'm afraid that while I know much of him and his glory, I know little of the practice of his religion. I was thinking
Who is
perhaps...
is it your family? Did they worship him? How did you come into this practice?
No, my father died when I was a child, and the priest who took care of him in the last parts of his death, the last moments of his life, rather, gotta remember his name. It was Oged or something like that, wasn't it?
Yes.
He was so kind to my father, who he owed nothing to, and I learnt from him about Bahamut and the ways of Bahamut. And when my father died, I felt a light upon me.
Oh, perhaps you are one of the touched. Not everyone has the vision. And you see, he looks inside of himself. He feels like not everyone has been directly touched by Bahamut. But it seems like you're lucky. Perhaps there's more to this. If you haven't been properly inducted, if you've heard the basic word, but there's so much more to learn. Here we have an incredible archive, and we're always looking for new novices and martial novices as well. If you're actually interested in picking up some calling, I mean, are you obviously have you come in with the refugees to this city?
In a way, I have. I would absolutely love to learn from you, but I...
Oh, it's so terrible that you've been displaced, you know. So many people have been displaced by the refugees. We just try and do the best for everybody here. But, you know, I think that you can do good. I feel that Bahamut is strong with you.
I want to do
long as
good.
you're
That's
true
exactly
and
what I'm here
honest,
to do.
never tell a lie.
I think I could learn from you, and I would love to do so. But
From me?
I'm afraid...
Yeah, I can show you. Look, you should meet Sister Anthony.
They're gonna
Sister
black bag you
Anthony,
and just keep
absolutely.
you captive in the
I
temple.
just need you to know very quickly, though, that I can only be here for a short period of time because I have a very holy quest I need to go on.
A quest?
Yes.
You've been given a quest by Bahamut?
I have, in a way. Perhaps you can introduce me to Sister Anthony, and we can go
yes,
from
Sister
there.
Anthony is the most wonderful person. You should come and meet her. Yeah, of course, yes, please. Come with me, come with me. And he leads you away, and introduces you to, he leads you down a series of corridors. He goes up to the clerics who are guarding the cordon, and he says, excuse me, I have a very interested, a very interested follower of Bahamut who might be interested in involving themselves with the martial order. And they look at you and look at him and nod and go, I'm going to take her to see Sister Anthony. And they're like, oh, yes, of course. And they uncouple the rope. And he goes, come on, come on. He takes you through. You get a closer look at this fancy statue with the platinum and
Take
stuff
some
on it.
scales.
And he leads you through into a corridor that runs behind the main chamber. And it's a bit of hustle and bustle back here. You see there's other priests and a group of paladins. One in particular who has a very dour disposition on his face, leading a group down the corridor. He's got like black hair and a few scars, and just he's got a group of rather earnest young men and women walking behind him as he sort of walks along through the corridors towards one of the side exits. He goes, I think she's just been freed up. That might have been an important meeting. I really don't know. I'll check. And he sort of goes forwards and goes into the door and is like, hi, Sister Anthony. I have someone for you. It's like, what do you want? Peter, get out of here. It's like, no, I have a very important a marshal, someone who's interested in being a marshal. Not. This isn't like the other ones, is it? We don't just give handouts. We expect people to work for their cause. It's like, no, this is... this person, look, you should... All right, bring them in. She turns around and you hear some muffled conversation, and Peter turns back to you and goes, come over here. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Spear. Spear Silvermore.
Spear,
And you were Peter?
Peter, yes. Yes, I'm Peter.
Thank you so much for escorting me all this way. I feel much more positive now that I've started this journey.
Thank you, Spear. He sort of like blushes. I'll see you around.
I hope so.
Okay. So he scurries off, and you step into the doorway, and you see.
I found a boy.
And you very quickly lock eyes with a woman in the room. She has her hair in long braids. It's a mousy brown. They go down to about her waist. She seems to be wearing just rough-hewn calico clothing with some nice detailing on them, mostly in gold thread. The symbol of Bahamut is emblazoned upon her chest. And she is otherwise wearing a circlet around her head that binds her hair to stop it from getting out of the way. She has wraps around her arms. Her clothing seems practical. And then off to the side, you see a suit of leather armor with a breastplate and a sword and a shield. And then also leaning up in the corner is a halberd. And she looks up and says, seems like an older woman, about 40. Says, so you, you look like you can handle that sword that you're carrying.
I hope I can.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
Hi, Anthony. I'm Spear. This is quite a beautiful temple. Peter was kind enough to show me around.
Yeah, Peter's very enthusiastic.
I feel Spear's getting more enthusiastic now that she feels like she's kind of figured some stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of excited to be here.
Primed for indoctrination.
Well, we're really glad to have you here.
Are you?
10%
Okay,
of the
that's
tide.
fantastic. Because when I was a kid, right? And then she tells her backstory.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think she's probably opening up a bit of this, so she might get a
It's
bit
like-
teary. And my dad died!
Okay, so Sister Anthony doesn't really know how, like, from the outside. Give me a charisma perception roll, please.
Edit this. Don't mention the Wentworths.
Or just an insight is fine as well.
That was not a good roll. I'm gonna use my point of inspiration to see if
You don't have to.
Oh, okay. It was okay.
Welcome.
Well, it's a five. It was
So
five
it
plus-
seemed to you it's a very cathartic experience,
Okay,
but from anyone outside this, she's just like, okay. Well, you've come to the right. I mean, we understand what it's like to be disenfranchised, and wow, you served in the battle for Iron Pass. Great.
I think it's like all the good and the bad. I'm like, but then my auntie, and then it was this great time, and
Okay,
then,
where do you
and
stop?
then the war, and then
Then I had a dream from Bahamut.
the dream,
Where do you
and
stop?
then,
Where do
my
you lead up
party,
to?
and then like the refugees, and then like
Okay, what don't you say? What do you say?
I think I'm pretty much. I think she
We're
probably
hosed.
would disclose all of the broad strokes of everything, and the only thing she'd go into, because she's talking too quickly to kind of cover everything in detail, like she's would just be jumping
Punctuated by-
from thing to thing, and the only thing that she'd go into detail around would be her first discovering of Bahamut and the kind priest who kind of
Okay.
showed her.
You're not going to talk about
Holiness.
Ellsdale?
No, well, mention Ellsdale, and there were undead, but then we defeated those. But she will talk about the vision from Bahamut there,
Okay.
and that her sense that she's on some kind of holy quest, and that she's trying to make sense of all of this.
Okay. She's like,
Oh, mentor!
We're
Sister
never coming
Anthony's
back.
like, okay, look, wow, that's a lot.
Cut him on.
Yeah, and what with the undead and the face dog, the giant, it had sex with what?
Prince of Darkness?
I don't
was
quite
like
sure.
series
Hold on.
1.
Hold on.
And my friend Gus, she's covered in spores. My other
I'm
friend
not sure if
died,
that's
but
healthy.
then she was
Has he
alive.
tried a wire brush? Look, it's a lot to digest, really. So you talked about an incident in the southern city.
Yeah, that's right.
Look, maybe it seems like you're quite distressed right now. Perhaps
Admit it.
you should come and meet some of the other martial novices.
I would love that. That'd be
and-
great.
And let's go through some exercises. Look, I'm not sure how much time you have, but look, we want to see where you're at right now.
Okay.
Okay. So they take you out the back, and they engage.
Scary
They take
sentence.
out
So
the
they
back
take
of
you
the
out
main
the back.
temple. There is a training yard. Lots of like leather dummies and sticks and staffs,
Standard
and
prison
lots of
rules.
people training. It seems like there are a lot of people here. You get quickly hurried off into a group. And in that group, you just go through some basic drills, and they're trying to ascertain your skills and your abilities. And they quickly realize that you have rather significant abilities.
Woo! I'm significant.
And they
Even
say,
though I
look,
can't
we
play
would love
much."
for you to come back to tomorrow, you said.
Praying's not
I need to talk to some people about a lot of the things you've talked about.
Oh,
but
shit, guys.
Pat, maybe when you... they basically try and run you through some training exercises to get a lot of this energy out of your system.
Okay, cool.
And they say, look,
It's
come
exactly
back
what
tomorrow
Spear
morning.
needs.
Come back tomorrow morning, let's do this again. And I think I'll have some other people for you to talk to at that point.
Okay,
Back to
okay.
the
Before I
guys.
go,
And
I have
maybe-
this map of the city. Where would you recommend I visit?
They're also confused, but points out a few locations for sightseeing purposes. They're like, where exactly are you staying again?
What was the name of the
The
town?
Lord's Rest.
The Lord's Rest.
Are you staying with someone there? Are you in the service of a
yeah,
lord?
all of my friends.
Are you staying in the service of a lord?
Yes, technically.
It's a really long story.
Just say yes.
Remember how we went to that Wentworth place Remember? And then we rolled that nightmare. Remember that story I told you?
No, the nightmare? Wait a second. That's how you got to the city, right?
Yes.
You mentioned the Archmage, of course.
Of course, I mentioned the Archmage and his
Perhaps-
faithful raven.
Perhaps you could come back tomorrow with some of your friends, and we could all have a chat about this. 'Cause this sounds like some pretty
It's gonna
important
turn into a prison
information.
drama.
But I think maybe it's not just
Oz.
myself.
I'll see
And
how they feel about that.
Friends, you and your friends with the skills that they have, we could certainly use their help
Meant to be on the inside.
in the city at this point.
Well, I see what you're saying. But we do have an important quest that has to do with restoring order to the entire world, including like the celestial plane.
And if I
So,
ask you,
I'll see how they're going.
I'm already pre-booked
Well,
for
just-
a world
just tell us-
domination thing.
Well, look, why don't you come back for training tomorrow and have maybe a friend or two of yours meet you for a lunch, and we can talk to some.
I will bring my archmage.
Great. Well, look, it was lovely to meet you, Spear. I can see that you're talented and you have some great skills, and you're strong in the following of Bahamut, and I would encourage you to
She hasn't
also
had a
look
parrot figure in a while,
tomorrow
guys.
when you come. Maybe we can also have you talk to one of the clerical staff here, so you can start doing some of the more intensive theoretical training that
That's
you
what
require.
I'd like. Yes,
All right,
that sounds great.
excellent.
Now for sightseeing.
And they send you on your way. If you like, we can send Peter with you.
God, no.
Boy.
You need a
boy.
boy.
Yeah, sure. Peter would
Or
be
one
very
of our
useful.
other
If we need
novices.
to influence this group, I think Peter
From the
Peter
city?
along might actually be useful.
What, by taking him off their hands?
Doing them a favour.
Favour
Then
by
they
getting
owe
rid of
us.
the Annoying intern.
No, I'll take
Peter's
Peter.
gonna learn so much stuff.
I'll take Peter with me.
Peter and I are gonna have some talks. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Peter's gonna be great. We need more of a moral compass.
He's a
Another-
party. He's a
What?
party.
Another voice.
The conversation goes something like this. It's Sister Anthony's calls. Peter! Yeah, so Peter, you are to be the local liaison for Spear while they're in the city. And you need to speak when spoken to. You understand the difference between a theological novice like yourself and a martial novice. Spear is proven to be more than just novice level, and we hope to officially induct them into the orders. You need to treat them with the utmost respect. Remember, speak when spoken to. Yes, Sister Anthony. Good, Peter.
Sweet. I have a boy. Boy acquired. Adding to inventory now.
Achievement unlocked.
So Peter goes with you, and Peter is very quiet to start with.
But then you go sightseeing.
But then he comes sightseeing with us.
Are you introducing him to Thea? So you meet Thea in the Grand Center.
Breath?
Breath.
Breath.
Yes, we've
Breath.
rehearsed this beforehand. I know how to address.
Okay.
Are you still female?
Yeah,
Freya,
still gonna
Sunhugger.
be Female.
So you have a lovely day sightseeing, and you meet Peter.
Yep.
At what point do you dispatch Peter to return to the temple where he has quarters?
Are you gonna kill him?
Gonna take him
That's
out back.
cold.
She's not a paladin of Shah.
So I think at the time that we rejoined the group for
But who
dinner or
is?
something like that.
Okay.
Or
So
whatever it might be.
you meet Peter. He's hilarious.
Less
He's trying to not speak when spoken to, but as soon as he gets excited, he forgets that.
He's a lot like me.
Yeah.
He is
And
a
me when I was in
local.
the Elven town.
But he also, you find out from Peter that he's a local of Miribar. He knows the city quite well. His
Awesome.
family has excellent relationships with the dwarves, or so he says.
Yeah.
I would like you to make a insight roll. You can also spear if you like.
One.
Oh, that's the spirit.
Natural one.
14.
You've had like the. You've witnessed him being dressed down by Sister Anthony, and seen his enthusiasm being curbed extensively, so you're not sure how much of what he says is true. But he's like, his family is connected to the dwarves. You think there's a dwarf crossover somewhere in the line. He's familiar with the dwarven lore masters. He knows everything about the architecture of the city.
It's great. I'm speaking to him in my
His
Elvish
dad's a stonemason.
as much as possible to keep practicing it,
Yeah.
Does he
even though
speak
he
Elvish?
doesn't understand.
His family
it,
used to
but-
be totally noble, but no, he doesn't speak Elvish.
No, but-
He speaks
Who
Dwarvish and Common.
Excellent.
I also speak Dwarvish in common.
So it's connected to.
So
the
there are a lot of
dwarves.
sub jokes that he says. Actually, it's kind of funny. He's more palatable when he talks in Dwarvish. It's like a lot of his mannerisms in human seem to be to do with his.
Is he like one of those guys white guys who's obsessed with Japanese culture? Is he-
Oh,
it's like it's a bit
What are they
weird.
A dwarf.
I've never
version
been
of a
there.
Yeah.
Dweevu?
Dwarfu. Dwarfu. Yeah, he's a bit obsessed.
Okay, well, I think we can use him as a tool for the sightseeing in the afternoon. So my pattern this week will be go to the mornings to study and fight and stuff.
The benefit of
really
his
coming along with your noble training.
dwarvuness,
Yeah.
the benefit of his dwarvuness is that he
Yeah.
does seem to know his way around the archive
Yeah.
that they have in the Temple of Bahamut.
And so
We
he
haven't met
will
him
help me
yet,
study
but
there.
he
He'll
sounds
come
like
out
one.
sightseeing with us since he knows the locales, and then he will be sent on his way when we join our friends in the tavern each evening to
He
find out how
also
their study has
totally
been going of the
knows the
demonic
names
language.
He also totally knows the names off by heart of every single lesser archon and celestial deity or sub-deity, celestial entity under the command of Bahamut.
So
And their
he can help me
respective power
study.
levels.
He can
And their
help me
respective
study.
power levels, yeah.
I'm
and
imagining,
rarity.
I'm imagining a montage of the
Flashcards?
flashcards.
Give you some basics, but that's something to do later. As both the two of you, Spear and Thea, you shake off the dust of the day and the tourism and the awesomeness that you've been
No, wait, we're
experiencing.
exchanging flashcards. You can be holding up the Elvish.
Yes.
And I'm holding up the
Yeah.
celestial,
Ah.
whatever. God
Study.
please.
While you guys are just doing comprehend language.
Yeah, the
rituals.
nerds over there.
Yeah.
could-
We're like high school
Ball
nerds, and you guys are like
We're going
university nerds doing
drinking.
proper rituals and stuff.
Flashcards, textbook.
Do you guys want to get drunk?
Yeah.
And you all rendezvous at your favorite tavern,
Fantastic.
which is Mulgar's Brazen Balls.
Oh, sounds great.
I mostly chose it for the name, but we stay for the balls.
And are they gonna take some back?
Yeah, Mulgar's Balls is a specialty dish.
It's
Whenever
spicy
Mystery
balls.
meets on, spiced balls.
Do we meet Peter? Do I realise that she's
No,
been to
no,
the temple?
they
send him home
Spear
before he
has
comes?
sent him home. That's what you said. You wanted
Me
to.
and my friends, get out of my
I
sight.
sent him home, but I'm sure you hear about him.
Yeah.
Like,
That-
I
that
mean,
you've gone
is
to
this
the
like the
temple?
whole week? Are we kind of recapping, or is this just one?
No, so that's been the whole week.
Yeah.
You guys are now coming together at the end of the week.
Yeah. So you would have
In
heard
a
about
private
him
room
Fantastic.
that you've secured
Yep.
in this larger tavern.
Woo!
Good week, everyone.
Is Peter around?
No.
Thank
No.
God.
Oh,
Can I
that
ask you
guy,
something, Spear?
jeez.
I just have like all the souvenirs of my travels. Like, I've got like
Mm.
little pins and stuff that I've collected from.
Peter took us to all these dwarvish little,
Yeah.
shops and things like that. Look at the things that I got too.
Get spoons.
Little spoons on,
Yeah,
on a rack.
little spoons.
It's all Art Deco all the time.
Little just rocks that are apparently special.
Yeah.
Ooh, this rock and this rock.
Did you check in with the Temple of Bahamut? You across? They're aware of you now?
Yeah. That's where I've been all week. I told you.
Yeah. All right. Well then, what? Maybe we should retire this Andal Wentworth thing.
Well, I don't think we. I mean, I think it. I mean, I was thinking about that.
We don't need it.
Well,
What
at
were
the
we
moment
using it
don't.
for?
At the moment,
Once-
we're using it for accommodation, but I agree. In the future, I don't think it will be so useful.
I think.
There's a great sleeping shack a few blocks away from here. I'm just saying.
Want to give up this?
We don't need to give up anything. You're still in the presence of an Archmage.
I'm going to refrain from striking
I don't think-
Gus.
I
A
don't
mere
think-
suggestion.
I guess I don't think this is a decision we need to make right now. Like, I have the armor. If it becomes useful in the future, then I'll consider putting it back
No,
on.
what I'm saying is it's a decision you should have made weeks ago.
Wow.
That's
Way to lay down the law.
Yeah.
that's a bit harsh. Jeez.
didn't know you were my keeper.
No, I'm not.
I
I'm
have
just,
another boy
just
now.
watching. Oh!
He's taller.
I swerve off.
Bernard's been getting pretty grumpy since he started reading that book.
I know. I think it's all the cheese upsetting his stomach, maybe.
He's not been good with cheese. I don't know why he keeps eating it.
He just wants to
Makes it
look.
so
And he's
gassy
leaving it
too.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
I found some in my room.
I even
Man.
found some cheese in my room. I don't know what's going on.
Look, once we get out of the big city, all of the temptations will fall behind him, and I'm sure he'll be back to whatever passes for normal.
So are we leaving?
Yes.
Yes.
We need to
We've got a date with 6 more masks.
Yes.
So how are we getting out of this city?
I think the
Nightmare.
Wentworth thing is only useful if we need to get more information. From
Can we
him.
even
No.
re-summon the nightmare?
Nightmares.
I'm pretty sure I can.
Dwarven
No,
tunnel
nightmares.
exit.
Let's give it a go. Let's give it
No,
a red hot go.
nightmares.
Do you remember how they
Have
make
you read that
nightmares?
exit?
Something to do with like torturing Pegasus.
I think
Yes.
we can get through the
Until
dwarven
they're
tunnel.
consumed by
Dwarves
their own
do
Do
array.
you have a
They-
spare
No, actually,
Pegasus?
I
The
think
dwarves
we
owe
can go
us.
through.
The dwarves
And
owe us,
apparently
and we have-
Peter
Think
is
about
in
the
with,
tunnels
like,
and ways out
this,
through that
with
over
all
the
of
time
them.
that we
He talks
spent.
about how extensive and amazing the tunnels were and how they go down like 50 levels.
We need to leave.
potentially
Means we
connect
stop
to the
being a
Underdark.
burden on people.
Yeah. We're not
And
helping
I
with
do
the siege.
conveniently have a map of the
Underdark.
Underdark.
I think that we should try a means that does not mean summoning a
Unicorn.
beast that will kill children.
For once, I'm with the side of law and order.
Because remember, they run on kids. I don't mean they
Fueled
run over
by
kids.
children's souls, much like the masks themselves.
That said,
No,
I,
those elf souls. That was more of a one-time
Might have been
injection.
children elves.
Those children's souls are getting eaten anyway. If we ride the nightmare around, that is actually a period of nightmare time when they're not consuming babies, and actually you're just opening them up to 24/7 baby
No,
eating.
remember, the more we use it, the more kids it ate.
There are
Don't
tunnels
recall that
out
at
of
all.
this place.
and the Underdark
They will be happy
isn't
to see the back of us.
the kindest
Oh.
place to be in.
Is it?
Also, I used to live there. I'm pretty familiar with Underdark. I speak the language.
I speak the language.
Ah,
I'm
what?
They just start
Sorry, do you
competing and
speak
the rest of us are
Undercommon or
like, please don't
Deep
spit on the
Speech?
food.
That's
Don't
three
spit
that was
votes
deep
for the
speech.
nightmare.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
I think
but
they just summoned
yeah, every now and again the words
He'll
come
turn
out.
up any minute.
I got both.
now.
I got Undercommon and Deep Speech.
Okay,
Oh,
I've only got Undercommon,
jeez.
so.
I feel like we've all
Deep
like,
Speech
Man,
sounds
what
more
a
like the
pair of
aliens
nerds.
from Mars Attacks.
Jeez.
At least in my
Okay,
mind.
so we're agreed
I think
we should
we've all
speak to some
agreed that the
dwarves.
nightmare approach is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, the easiest way to get there is
I'm
there's
not calling that unanimous at all.
Have we
Well, I
removed the
think
book
that
from
At
Bernard
the
yet?
moment, we have a party of 6 people, and only 2 agree with that approach.
the easiest way to
So
get
one
there,
third.
I'm
frankly, is
accepting that.
by
I just won't call it unanimous. That's all.
We need to get out of this city,
if we get
get
out of
to
the
the
city,
coast, get a ship, go for a nice
So how do
little
we get out
jaunt.
of the coast? Or out of the city? Right?
but Nightmare
Dwarf
I,
tunnels.
would technically be easier.
Okay.
And fast, right?
And
Exiting is a very different thing to entering. Like getting into the city under siege would be a pain in the ass.
We helped rescue those dwarven lawkeepers.
Getting them to kick us out so we're no longer consuming resources within the city under siege sounds like a much easier negotiation to do.
I agree.
Plus, we've got,
There's a
Sir
river,
Brian
right?
Wentworth, the
Kick us out
hero of the
where?
South City. Wherever their tunnel, they had tunnels exiting in the Spine of the World Mountains, nearby to the north.
Peter might even know where to go.
Yes, they have trade routes that go to the north to various mining.
But we're actually trying to go down here to Trollbark, right?
Yeah.
However,
we
we
are
just
trying to
need
go
to
south.
immediately. We just need to basically get to Luskan, but we just need to get out of
That's
this
right. We need to get to
invading,
Luskan.
besieging
Can we
army.
possibly take the
Alright.
river downstream to Luskan?
Absolutely.
But the question is, but we know the river's being like shot at and things like that, right?
So the last
Probably not
when
the
you
whole
flew
river.
in over the city was completely encircled.
Oh, wow.
You are
Yeah.
uncertain whether the army has moved on from here, but give me an intelligence roll, and Saya and Bert. Actually, no, just Saya.
No, what am I doing?
18.
Sorry?
Just
Intelligence
intelligence,
roll.
thanks.
Not me.
Oh.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, 18.
4.
Awesome. You don't think about it, but
You're a bit distracted.
You're like,
you don't
just-
think that Miribar is a big prize. Like, from a strategic level, if they wanted to move from here, they would have to be moving with their whole force. So the army is essentially committed to this siege, which means moving downriver towards Luskan, away from Miribar, would also take you away from this conflict, which seems like it will go on. Like, you've heard stories of sieges. They can go for years sometimes.
So,
yeah.
but I'm saying, would the river be a safe pathway to get to
As soon as you get a reasonable distance from the city, yes.
Yeah, there's not much going on.
So we just need to
Within
get
a few
far enough.
miles, it's likely that within a few miles of the river there would still be like small raiding parties of orcs, but you're not talking about a huge military presence like they have besieging the city.
So we've talked about using the nightmare to get out of the city. We've talked about using tunnels. What about just sneaking out? What about just not using a stealth spell, climbing over the
Using the
wall?
mask.
I mean, they're not
Just-
looking for 6 people to
Just
be
using
exiting
your
in a-
stealth spell, we
Yeah.
can probably walk straight out.
I get a nice. Give me a few huffs. I'll get a nice miasma going, and
We
we'll
can
just.
find an area
right
where,
out.
which is less, well, fortified, or the siege is less visible. Like, I mean, if they're sieging the city, they're not like looking at every wall. If we do it under the cover of night, we could just sneak out, and as long as we get far enough away from the city, we can just get in a boat and.
I reckon,
Go
so
down the river?
leaving the city is not the problem. Once we get out of the city, how are we getting there? Because
Well-
if we go
Oh,
by
we go down-
Nightmare, we
go
just
down-
leave.
We go down to Luskan and then
Yeah,
catch
so
a
we
boat.
catch.
Okay, so that's the plan?
Yeah.
So we go down river to Luskan, so we can just catch, if we can find some way of traveling by river, that will be quite quickly, and then we can catch a ship from there down the coast, and that will be fast and also cost no children's souls.
Define fast.
It's pretty fast.
Because the river from Miribar to
Trust
Luskan
me.
is flowing out to sea,
Not
so
as
we'll actually
fast
get
as
a
a Nightmare, though.
thing. You have a nightmare boner, and you need to put it away.
We got important shit to do, and we need to get it done. We need to stop pretending like we can do this important world-stating thing without cracking any eggs and keeping ourselves morally clean. There's only one person who needs to
Those
try and stay
eggs-
morally clean. It's the paladin.
Those eggs have
Everyone
names
else of us
like
is already
Heidi.
dirty. We're going to get this shit done, and I'm going to use a nightmare. I'll personally murder the children to feed to the nightmare if it means we save the world a week earlier.
I'm pretty
Well, I'm
sure
not
at that
gonna let you
point,
do that.
Spear's gonna cut your head off.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll outsource the murdering of the children to the nightmare. See, this is about compromise. This is about getting the shit done. This is how it's done.
Well, the compromise is to escape the city without summoning a nightmare. So,
I think
are
we
we
can.
all up for this plan?
If we go back to where the wall breached.
No, we
Isn't
don't.
it
We're
fine?
not
No,
going
no,
back
no.
south.
No, I
It's
thought
occupied.
the north and out.
We're north, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're in
you
the
guys
North
have moved
City.
to the North City.
All right,
Right.
north and out.
Let's go.
Also, I just want to take the night to just say, like, it's been really great getting to know you guys over the last week, and like,
No,
It has
it's
been
really
pretty good.
fun living with you. I've only ever lived with my 9 brothers before, and this was way better.
Now, Spear, don't forget to settle up the bill before we go.
Of course.
That's why we
Oh,
Wait a minute, how do I do that?
You don't.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, now I feel bad.
Don't. I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Oh, good, thank you. Actually, we probably could pay.
No, we're not paying.
I'm also pretty sure we can't.
So we're okay with stealing. We're okay with lying. We're just not okay with baby murder. Like, where is the exact line?
Okay, white collar crime
Wow.
is fine. Picture the
What was your
collar.
intelligence
Picture the
again,
color
or
of the
wisdom?
criminal collar. White is okay. Red, less so.
Yeah, but we're not even talking about halfling babies, right?
Maybe.
could be.
could be.
Really?
Yeah. There's
Oh, how monstrous.
could be any baby.
I think of the impact
could
if it's
even
an
be
elven
halflings.
baby.
They're like
I know.
child-sized.
Okay, so
Alright,
Shall
so
we
sneaking out of the city,
sneaking out the
out
city.
to...
Are we
So,
using
should we take
stealth?
one
Down
more
the
night
river.
to prepare,
One more night.
and then we'll
Chris.
sneak out tomorrow?
I'll ask Peter.
We need to sneak out maybe at night time.
Yeah, so not tonight, but tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
and
night.
we'll use tomorrow to grab any rations we need. I'll speak to Peter about ways out. We can also see if we probably want to find somewhere we can get a boat on the other side to travel down the river. Maybe see if there's a little town nearby where you can.
There are definitely towns along the river. Thea, you're aware of this. Like, all along the river there are small settlements.
Yeah, we should be able to barter and get something.
Well, there's
there.
not going to be. They've all been raided.
Well, we'll see what
We'll-
we
It's
can
a
I'm
matter
sure
of
we'll
how
find
far up
something.
the river there has been raided, I guess.
It depends how. Yeah, they might not be worthwhile raiding.
But we're going
all we're looking for
downstream.
is a small boat just to travel in, right?
true.
It doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, for most of us.
Doesn't have to be fancy, but doesn't hurt.
Then let's
Yeah.
go, right? Oh, sorry. Night off.
Yep. Night off.
You should
Everyone-
smooze with all those like wealthy people and find out who's got a boat upstream that they're just waiting to sail away on for funsies.
I presume the pleasure yachts are somewhere else.
It's a landlocked city.
Some of them are in Luskan, but not many of them. Luskan's a pretty untoward town. You stopped in there once when you were but a lad.
Oh.
The smell alone was not amazing.
This will be fine then.
Pirates. We're gonna be.
Alright, we're stealthing out.
Yep. I've got a plan for the night.
Okay. So we have made a plan, and then we enjoy each other's company over a meal. Except for you, it's scowling about your
No, food is the great unifier. Sit with you motherfuckers while we
Well,
salt plater.
will you eat something that's not cheese?
No.
Yeah, sure. I'm not big in eating the cheese. I was
No.
testing the Gus.
I was testing
bruise,
the
yeah.
Gus. Gus
So-
and fruit cheese.
It's order
Once-
champagne.
Once everyone gets into the 8 hours rest period, I'll slip a small present under Saria's door.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm not
What
not
is it?
trancing yet.
It's a small domino mask
Uh-huh.
buried in like a box that's got some fine rope and a grappling hook
Okay.
and a note that's saying, "We're going out."
And we're gonna end game
Fine.
there, guys.